Now, even though the Eminence in Shadow Season 2 has ended, there are still so many things about the series that we can discuss, especially the characters. So for this video, we'll be talking about the name numbers Omega and Kai because in one of my previous videos on the members of Shadow Garden, they were barely given any proper explanations. That's why I wanted to provide this supplementary video where I cover their backstories, how they ended up joining Shadow Garden and how they ultimately became partners within the organization. As usual, this video will contain spoilers for the characters and for the Game Master of Garden, so here's a spoiler warning just in case. And if you enjoyed this character breakdown video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well, it really helps. Now then, let's first talk about Kai and her life before joining Shadow Garden. To start, she was originally from the Valgata Empire and her former name was Karen von Herzog. Her family was actually one of the oldest and most influential families within the empire, and their current status was a result of their relationship with the Cult of Diablos. That's because long ago, before the formation of the empire, various city-states were constantly fighting and war had ravaged the region. However, many of the aristocratic and ruling families grew tired of the bloodshed. So when the cult offered to unite the region, many including the Herzog family accepted and willingly submitted to the cult in exchange for autonomy to rule over their own respective lands. This was how the Herzog family first acquired their power and influence, and this relationship has been maintained for numerous generations with Karen being the current head of the family. But moving on, because Karen was born into the cult, she was classified as a child of Diablos and was the first children, individuals who have high levels of magic and are extremely talented fighters. Her status also meant that she would receive proper education and quality training from the cult. She was even expected to become a named children, a title reserved for those that have made significant contributions to furthering the schemes of the cult. And that wasn't all, Karen served in the Valgata military as well, and her combat proficiency even earned the Empire's recognition. She was appointed to become one of the Valgata 7 Blades, a title given only to the 7 greatest weapon users of the Empire. She was mainly known for her skills with the spear and her title was Shooting Star. Honestly, it seems that if Karen wasn't afflicted with demon possession, she might have become quite influential within the cult, but sadly fate had other plans for her because when she was afflicted with demon possession, her comfy life was completely destroyed. That's because when a member of the cult becomes afflicted, the typical procedure was to surrender them to the cult, but the Herzog family refused and chose to protect Karen. However, the cult discovered their betrayal, so they sent Sergei Gorman, a fellow first children and another one of the 7 Blades to capture Karen as well as to purge her entire family, showing that no matter how loyal or close you are to the cult, they will eliminate you at the slightest signs of insubordination. That said, Karen would briefly fight Sergei and before escaping to Madlid, an abandoned town located near the border of the Valgata Empire, and it was during this encounter that she lost her right eye to him. Unfortunately, Sergei and his forces still managed to track her down, but Gamma and Ita, who just so happens to be surveying for oil fields around the area, came to rescue her. And funny enough, both Gamma and Ita have very different reasons for rescuing her. Gamma essentially wanted the valuable information that Karen has on the cult, whereas Ita assumed Alpha would let her use Karen as a life test subject because she was a member of the cult. In any case, they made their entrance and easily took down all of Sergei's forces, but Sergei himself was too powerful for them, so they decided to retreat. And it was interesting that Karen initially had begged Sergei to spare Gamma and Ita because she assumed they were only children, and later even using her body to shield Gamma from his attack, showing that she wasn't like the other cult members and she was still a kind-hearted person. With that said, Karen was brought back to Alexandria where Epsilon was able to heal her possession, and it was hilarious that Ita was already making preparations to experiment on her. Luckily, Lambda was there to stop Ita, and after Karen awakens, she meets with Alpha who gave her 2 options. 1. Tell them everything about the cult and join Shadow Garden, or 2. Alpha would personally end Karen after they extracted the information they need. Of course, she was initially reluctant to share information on the cult, seemingly still holding some allegiance to them, but Gamma manages to convince her otherwise. Now to summarize what she revealed, basically like I said, the cult was responsible for the formation of the Valgata Empire, along with the fact that the current 7 Blades were actually comprised of all first children. She then provided insight on the organizational structure of the cult and the children of Diablos, but I'll be saving this topic for a future video. She even revealed the names of the Knights of Round she knew, that being Fenrir, Loki, Hel and Jormungand, although she doesn't have much details about them. However, she was forced to face the difficult truth when Alpha confronted her about the children of Diablos, essentially under the pretense of giving orphans and less fortunate children a better life. The cult was simply kidnapping, drugging and brainwashing children to become soldiers. And this realization completely shattered the worldview and belief of Karen, because she along with her family used to genuinely believe that the actions of the cult were justified. Although later she did reveal to Gamma that deep down, she subconsciously knew about the cult's evil deeds but was simply turning a blind eye to reality. That's why she was frustrated about her current situation, becoming resentful of her family history and was seeking atonement for their sins. This even causes her to develop somewhat self-destructive tendencies, and the best example is that she willingly participated in Ita's crazy experiments. So after some self-reflection, Karen agrees to leave behind the past and witness the future unfold through Shadow Garden, but before she joins them, she wanted to challenge Alpha, wagering the only thing she had left, her pride as a warrior. However, even that was shattered when Alpha easily defeated Karen, although Alpha did praise her combat prowess, meaning that she was still a significantly strong fighter. Thus, Karen was now number 111 and she would begin her Shadow Garden training under Lambda. But because of her background as a 7th Blade, she easily overcame Lambda's training, even mastering how to control the slime bodysuit relatively quick. She later received additional training from Epsilon as well, and I'm not sure if this detail was intentional or not, but in the game Master of Garden, Epsilon was also a spear user, so maybe that's why 111 was attached to her. Also, it seems that 111 hasn't completely let go of her past because the resentment she has over her current situation was still present, and the desire to exact her revenge against Sergei was apparently the only driving force keeping her alive. But I liked how the game showcases more of Epsilon's talents as a teacher and leader because her advice was able to help 111 somewhat resolve her inner conflict. Epsilon basically told her that if vengeance will allow her spirit to move forward and help find herself, it's the correct path for her. However, if she chooses vengeance without a clear understanding of what she seeks, then she is no better than a puppet to fate. But anyways, when Shadow Garden planned on infiltrating and expanding their influence in the Volgata Empire to better understand the cult, Epsilon has suggested they utilize 111's knowledge of the area for the mission, even proposing they establish a base in the college town of Laugus, using one of the secret villas that used to be owned by the Herzog family. And despite Alpha's initial worries, thanks to Epsilon and Gamma's verbal support, 111 was allowed to participate in the mission. And it was during this mission where they rescued the yet-to-join Omega, who was being transported along with other possessed individuals by the cult through the ports of the city-states. Now let's go over a bit of Omega's past, and similar to 111, she was from the Volgata Empire as well, but her backstory isn't as comprehensive. However, we do know that her former name was Olga and she served as the military instructor for the Empire. She even taught and knew Zenaida, the past identity of Lambda when she was still a Volgatan soldier. That's why when Olga did join Shadow Garden, she actually refused to acknowledge Lambda as a superior, which definitely angered Lambda. Having said that, when Olga was rescued and brought back to the villa, Epsilon was again the one to cure her demon possession. She was then given number 122 as a new name, and apparently because of her existing skills, Epsilon even exempted her from receiving the usual Shadow Garden training, instead having her be permanently based in the Empire. Another reason for this exemption was likely because of her somewhat problematic personality and the pragmatic approach she has towards Shadow Garden, being someone that doesn't completely believe in the ultimate goal of the organization, and Epsilon probably wanted to avoid having her attitude affecting the other recruits back in Alexandria as well. But that doesn't mean 122 doesn't care about the organization. In fact, despite her detached attitude, she was quite meticulous and will always carry out her mission with the utmost dedication. Also, her overall attitude was greatly improved and became much tamer when she started working with 111, which I'll be discussing next. So regarding this, after 122 was rescued, Epsilon paired her with 111, hoping they could make use of each other's abilities and grow together, and her judgment ended up being correct because they did become good friends, although 111 was initially quite annoyed by 122's constant teasing and sarcastic comments. But continuing on, they were both sent on their first mission together when Gamma ordered them to investigate Aneros, the newly appointed member of the 7 Blades, to determine whether she was a cult member or not. They eventually discovered that Aneros was investigating the Herzog family and that she has no affiliations with the cult, even being targeted by the assailants, although she has managed to repel them so far. However, Gamma ordered them to continue monitoring Aneros when she discovered just how utterly oblivious Aneros was to the dangers of the cult. Additionally, the cult was apparently pushing the narrative that Karen had become crazy and she was the one responsible for the massacre of her family. In any case, 111 and 122 noticed that Aneros was being attacked by the cult again, but seeing that she wasn't in any danger, they decided to have a brief conversation about their convictions. However, after hearing about 111's so-called warrior's pride and how she was envious that Aneros was able to become the knight that she always wanted to be, 122 starts teasing her, thinking that she's far too idealistic and simple. Although 122 did internally question her own uncaring attitude after hearing about 111's philosophical views on the world, Regardless, when more cult reinforcements arrived, they were forced to help Aneros, but 111 got carried away and blown their covers. This causes 122 to contemplate about killing Aneros, but she was baffled at how gullible and oblivious Aneros was, as she thought that 111 was merely a spectre of Karen returning from the grave to clear her own name. 111 was forced to play along with some very terrible acting that might have made Sid proud, and of course after Aneros left, 122 couldn't resist teasing 111 again for the ridiculous exchange. Anyways, they were later sent on another mission by Gamma, this time to raid a cult facility that was apparently housing special boxes meant for transporting artifacts. During the operation, they successfully eliminated their targets, but 111 soon discovers what the special boxes were used for, to transport demon-possessed infants, and the realization that the cult were experimenting on infants left her traumatized, further proving just how cruel and evil they were. Luckily, Epsilon was able to kill the infants, and she hints that Shadow Garden might actually have their own nursery. That said, 111 later told 122 about her newfound resolve after witnessing the atrocities committed by the cult. Seeking revenge was no longer her only mission, she also wanted to protect others and save them from the cult. And this actually inspired 122 because she finally discovered her purpose in Shadow Garden as well, to help 111 to achieve her dreams and protect her from danger. This was basically how their partnership started, and like I said, their friendship only grew stronger as time went on. With that explained, it seems that at some point in time they were promoted to name numbers. 111 was now known as Kai while 122 was known as Omega, and it wasn't that surprising they were promoted considering that even before the events of the anime, they were already considered to be talented warriors and their performance in missions were also quite exceptional. Nevertheless, they actually made their first appearance in the anime and only appeared in the light novel much later in the story, which was rare for adaptations. However, most of their appearances in the anime so far were quite brief, but thanks to the game Master of Garden, their characters were greatly expanded upon. Also, they have never actually met Sid, and their first meeting with him will happen in volume 6 of the light novel. To explain, he was invited to a luxury VIP bar opened by Miss Goshi, and when he arrived, Omega was working as his server, while Kai was making his drinks as the bartender, and it was hilarious that the both of them were utterly nervous when meeting him. But I digress. Despite being side characters, I really enjoyed seeing the relationship that Omega and Kai have, because even though they have seemingly opposite personalities, with Kai being more idealistic and temperamental, while Omega was more sensible and realistic, they complement each other so well, and their dynamic actually feels very organic. And hopefully we'll see more of them in not just the game but the anime, manga and light novel as well.
何かあったかしら? いえ、何も。
So yeah, that's the backstory for both Omega and Kai, how they joined Shadow Garden and became good friends with each other. I really like their character development and how different they are when you compare their time before and after Shadow Garden. But what about everyone else? What are your thoughts on Omega and Kai? And between the two, who's your favorite? Leave your answers down below. Also, everything I mentioned can be found in the game Master of Garden, so if you're interested in learning more, you can actually find the stories yourself on YouTube. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like or subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button as well for more content like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.